Mens lees deesdae gereeld van ongelukke in die nuus waar persoonlike vuurwapens lei tot 'n tragedie. Maar is dit werklik ongelukke? Kan mense dit nie dalk verhoed nie? En kom dit nie dalk daarop neer dat die besit van vuurwapens onnodig is nie? Terselfdertyd moet mense erken dat ons in 'n land woon waar mens nogal 'n behoefte daarin het om jouself te beskerm en te bemagtig. Is vuurwapens die antwoord? Ons praat vandag in ons debat daaroor met Professor Christiaan Bezuidenhout van Universiteit van Pretoria, Martin van die Vuurwapen-eienaarsvereniging en Adele Kirsten van Gunfree SA. Welkom aan elkeen van julle. Kom ons begin eers by jou, Martin. Is dit nodig om 'n vuurwapen te besit in Suid-Afrika?
More, Alma. Absolutely. We live in a democratic country, and I think the citizens of South Africa have spoken in as much as in the past 2 years, more and more people have purchased firearms. They've purchased firearms for self-defense. They've purchased firearms for recreational and hunting purposes. And the end result is that, notwithstanding the Firearms Control Act, people have complied with the requirements of the Firearms Control Act, and we have licensed more firearms in this country than since 1994. And I think that's a significant step in as much as people have realized that if they're prepared to go through the requirements of the Firearms Control Act, they can legally obtain a firearm. And quite clearly there's a need and a demand for these firearms, and that's evidenced by virtue of the fact of the increasing number of people who are purchasing them.
Are they the answer though? Die groot vraag is vuurwapens werklik die antwoord op ons probleme in Suid-Afrika, Adele?
Well, no. For Gunfree South Africa, definitely not. They pose a risk for users, particularly in the home. And the risks in the home, as we've just seen this week, are young children getting guns. You cannot gun-proof a child. And so the risk in the home is for also suicide, for accidents. And Gunfree South Africa doesn't believe gun violence is an accident. There are patterns and trends. You can prevent gun violence.
And to those people who say guns don't kill people, people do?
Absolutely, people do kill. And that's why the Firearms Control Act regulates who can own which gun for what purpose. And so you need to make sure that the person is fit and proper. That's why you have renewals. Every 5 years, people have to renew their license because it recognizes that people's behavior alters, that their circumstances change. So yes, people are key to this issue.
Christiaan, hulle het nou albei die wet genoem. Is die wet genoeg?
Ons het baie sterk wetgewing en goeie wetgewing en die polisie kom kyk na jou kluis, jy weet jy gaan deur 'n bevoegdheidstoets, hulle toets jou, jy skryf 'n eksamen. Die groot probleem lê by die gebruiker van die vuurwapen. Jy weet mense, as jy kyk in hoeveel gevalle van die ongelukke en ouens ry nou werk toe vanoggend, dan kan jy weet daar's 'n klomp ouens se vuurwapens wat in hulle bedkassie lê, voor die bed of in die kas en dis die probleem. Die wet sê baie duidelik aan jou persoon of in die kluis. So ek dink daar's baie nalatigheid. Dit beteken nie ons in jou aanvanklike vraag, jy weet het jy dit nodig. Dit hang alles af. Weet daar's sportskieters, daar's professionele jagters. Ons is 'n land met baie wild ensovoorts. So dis 'n nodigheid om 'n vuurwapen te hê. En dan natuurlik selfverdediging die groot ding. So die wetgewing is ek dink in plek en net terloops dis die wetgewing wat die meeste al aangepas en gewysig is. Ek dink in die 165 jaar waar daar wetgewing bestaan rakende vuurwapenbesit en die gebruik van vuurwapens. Dis juis omdat dit so kontroversieel is. Ons bestaande wetgewing, ek is heeltemal in orde. Ek dink is die gebruiker van die vuurwapens en dan natuurlik die miljoene onwettige wapens wat daar buite beskikbaar is.
And how do we address this problem of illegal firearms and the prevalence?
We've been trying to address the problem for as long as I've been involved in the firearm debate. We have to draw a distinction between legal firearms and illegal firearms. Legal firearms and legal firearm owners obviously in the main comply with the law. A possessor of an illegal firearm or a user of an illegal firearm is by definition a criminal. That is for the criminal justice system to deal with. And the biggest problem I think that we have in this country is that we have many good laws, but our criminal justice system falls flat on its face when it comes to implementation of the laws and most practically when it comes to properly punishing criminals. We don't put criminals in jail. That's our biggest problem. We often catch criminals. The police then take them to court, but the court system fails both the victims and society in general.
Is that why guns in general have such a bad rap? Or is it because people are negligent in the use and keeping and safeguarding around guns?
Well, Chris mentions negligence, and no doubt that there is negligence, but that element of negligence with legal firearm owners is extremely small. The problem lies with the criminal use of firearms. And that criminal use of firearms can vary from cash and transit robberies, bank robberies, to domestic violence, because as soon as somebody misuses a firearm, they become a criminal. And I want to emphasize to everybody that when someone misuses a firearm, they must be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
My main concern when it comes to guns, and I think this is a general one, is that once you're attacked in your home, even if you have a gun, the odds of you being able to access that gun and to use it in self-defense is severely limited because you are most often caught unawares.
No, it's not.
No, you are.
First of all,
Yes, okay.
first of all, we must understand that the use of a firearm to protect yourself or your family is a last resort.
Okay.
It's the last thing that you resort to in circumstances where you have no other option. If you have, for example, proper security measures in place, dogs in your house, security gates, alarms, then you can prepare yourself where if criminals come into your house, for example, which is the most common situation, people come into your house, your alarm goes off, your dogs bark, etc., you can then retrieve your gun from a safe or wherever it is, and you can be prepared. If those criminals come to you, they have evil intentions. You're quite entitled to use a firearm in those circumstances.
Adele?
I think two things. One is Rudolf Zinn from UNISA has done a lot of work on this in this area, and he makes it very clear that there's no single security measure to secure your safety. And I think one of the problems in South Africa is because people see guns as, in fact, the first resort, not the last resort. And that's a myth, and I think it puts people increasingly at risk. The research both in South Africa and elsewhere in the world shows that you increase your risk of having your gun used against you rather than using it to defend yourself.
You keep repeating this myth,
well, this
and it's
is
not true.
US,
Substantiate it.
Could you give her a moment?
Give us your research and your statistics.
Okay.
Give her the
So in
opportunity.
the US research done by Hemingway suggests that you're 7 times more likely to have your gun used against you, and that's particularly with house invasions. In South Africa, Anthony Altbecker, who's well known in the world of criminal justice, he did research in the late 90s in South Africa where he showed that you're 4 times more likely to have your gun taken off you and used against you. And I think Christiaan's made the point is that the law requires you to have your gun in the safe or on your person. The majority of people are going to have it in their safe. And so therefore the law in a way doesn't allow you to do that. So if you are someone who has your gun always on your person and in a sense are at the ready all of the time to shoot. Now the question I think to ask the viewers is, do we want to live like that? Is that the kind of society we want to live? And I think most people would say no.
Jy het al baie navorsing hieroor gedoen.
Ja, ek dink is baie duidelik, weet, kom ons vat vandag huisbrake of wanneer daar nou 'n huisroof plaasvind en byvoorbeeld 'n plaasaanvalle, is daar suksesstories waar mense hulle vuurwapens wel gebruik het om hulle self te verdedig. En ek dink is baie die belangrike rede oor hoekom 'n persoon 'n vuurwapen aanskaf, is ek gaan myself en my gesin beskerm. En dan moet mens gaan kyk na artikel 49 wat die strafproseswet sê baie duidelik. Dit is die heel laaste ding wat jy doen om daai tipe geweld te gebruik, is om jou vuurwapen af te vuur. Hulle praat, en ek dink dit is miskien wat van die kykers sal nou wil weet, wanneer skiet ek? Die ding is, as hulle by jou ry staan en jy skreeu en hulle hardloop weg, kan jy nie 'n vuurwapen afvuur terwyl 'n ou weghardloop nie. As hy alreeds in jou huis is en hy draai om en hardloop, kan jy ook nie vuur nie. Dit is die laaste ding wat jy doen. So kan jy hoor, dit eskaleer. So die hele ding gaan oor die eskalasie van die probleem. En dit is baie keer baie moeilik om in die hof te bewys. En dan die volgende ding, het hy 'n wapen by hom gehad, 'n skroewedraaier, 'n mes, 'n panga of 'n vuurwapen. Het hy jou lewe bedreig? En dit eskaleer tot op 'n punt waar jy geen ander keuse gehad het om jouself, jou persoon, jou integriteit en jou familie se persoon en integriteit te beskerm, was om 'n vuurwapen te gebruik. En dan is dit waar. Dis baie keer in 'n kluis, jy's heel rustig saam met jou vriende. Dit gebeur baie keer wanneer hulle die huisrowe doen, is wanneer daar 'n rustige ontspanningssituasie is. Hulle weet die alarms is af, die hondwagter lê by jou, hy weet niks wat aangaan nie. So al jou veiligheidsmeganismes is afgeskakel. Jy's ontspanne en dis baie keer wanneer jy die huisrowers toeslaan of weet met 'n plaasaanval en dan is die ouens nie reg daarvoor nie. Dit is ook waar dat met motorkapings en dis meer ouens gebruik vuurwapens en ons praat van die wapeneffek of die weapons effect. En dit is baie keer waar die persoon wat die vuurwapen in sy hand het die oormag. Hy veroorsaak 'n tipe vrees by jou. En dis baie raar. Jy moet baie goed opgelei wees om dan, jy weet, soos in die Wilde Weste jou wapen, want jy skrik, baie mense vries. Hy het 'n wapen baie keer by hom, maar hy vries heeltemal.
Ja.
So dis 'n paradoks en dis 'n baie moeilike antwoord om te gee en ek dink dis 'n proses. Ek dink dit gaan oor die eskalasie en of jy reg was met jou vuurwapen om jou integriteit te beskerm. Ek dink dis 'n belangrike punt.
En dan is jy dikwels die uitsondering op die reël.
Ja.
Ons het ongelukkig nie meer baie tyd oor die slotargument, Martin, net
A firearm is not a magic wand. It's merely a part of an overall security solution to protect yourself. A large number of South Africans rely on private security or their own personal firearms to protect themselves. There's very simple reasons for that. We have violent crime in this country. We cannot rely on the police services to protect us, so citizens take other means in order to protect themselves, one of which is a legal firearm.
Adele.
Important for viewers to know that there's a strong link between legal and illegal guns. The majority of guns that enter the illegal market were once legal. They get stolen over from civilian owners. 20,000 a year get lost or stolen from civilian gun owners, from the police, from the military. So we have to deal with both at the same time.
They are linked
intrinsically.
Ek dink dis belangrik wat sy sê, dat dit gesteel word by die polisie en by die weermag ook. Dis nie net die ouens wat privaat vuurwapens nie. Ek dink dat daai syfer is redelik klein as jy gaan kyk wat by mense gesteel word. Ek dink wat wel baie belangrik is neem verantwoordelikheid vir jou vuurwapen. Die wetgewing is daar, dit spesifiseer baie duidelik. Dit sê, jy weet, dit sê sit in 'n kluis, jou vuurwapen, sluit dit weg of aan jou persoon. Jy moet altyd bewus wees van jou vuurwapen omdat dit dodelike instrument is. Mense leef in vrees in Suid-Afrika en dit bied daarom 'n mate van weer daai gedagte van ek kan myself beskerm en dit help baie mense.
Ja. So ek dink die uiteindelike boodskap is om jouself met kennis, inligting en as jy dan so sou besluit 'n vuurwapen te bemagtig, maar begin by die kennis en die inligting. Baie dankie aan al ons paneellede, Martin en Christiaan en Adele.